It's the Indie Writers Club with Cara Clare and James Blatch. A place to relax, chat, learn and vent about life as an independent author. Get episode alerts and links at indiewritersclub.com. Now, here's Cara and James.
Hello and welcome to the Indie Writers Club. I'm James Blatch.
And I'm Cara Clare. Hi, James Blatch.
Hello, Cara. How are you doing?
I'm good, but, you're still away in Aruba with the sunshine.
I was certain Aruba was in Mexico, and quite a few people who've been messaging me have said, "Are you having fun in Mexico?" I wasn't the only one.
Really?
Yeah, including the CEO of Vinci Books, who thinks Aruba is in Mexico. I don't know whether we confuse it with Acapulco or something. I don't know, but I did
maybe.
Think anyway,
yeah.
It's in the Caribbean. It's basically not that far from Barbados. It's 28 miles from the Venezuelan coast. We're at 12.5 degrees above the equator. And there may or may not be a swimming pool and palm trees just outside my window, but I'm not going to show you that because I don't want to
just stick with the hotel view, thank you.
But the weather has not been what I thought. It's not been as hot. And it's been cloudy every day. It's windy every day in this island anyway. It's windy every day of the year. It used to be called, I think, the Leewoods or the Windwoods or something. Dutch, still part of Holland. So they have the florin here. They've got the euro in Holland now, but they actually have the old florin here, yeah, amazingly. Yesterday afternoon, I went to the beach after the sessions, and it was a little cool. It's like sitting on the beach. I wasn't expecting that. And then the sun came out, and it was hot. It was lovely swimming in the sea.
So tell us all what you're doing in Aruba, for those who don't know.
This is called Indie Author Mastermind. It's not a secret group, but it is exclusive group. So you have to be invited in, and it's generally for people who are doing very well. So very good six-figure authors are mainly here. So people earning several £100,000 a year, dollars, through to people making 2 or 3 plus million a year. So the idea is you get in a room together with people who are at that level, and you discuss the kind of tactics that work at that level. What got you here is not going to get you to the next 5 years type thing. So what's new? What should you be doing? You share best practices and so on. So it's not as structured as most conferences. It's fairly loose. You've been to one before.
Yes,
Mallorca,
we went to the Mallorca one together, didn't we? 2 years ago now. Yeah, because they're every other year. And I was gutted not to go to this one. I just couldn't commit at the time that everybody was signing up. I was in the middle of all my divorce stuff and I didn't know how it was going to pan out, and I just couldn't. So the FOMO has been real, and I've had everybody sending me selfies and tagging me on Facebook. And I'm like, you know what, guys, I'm going to mute you all for a week.
Yeah, I don't blame you. But it's been good. It has been good. It's a different feel to Mallorca. I think Mallorca was a lot more big things people were learning for the first time. And here it's a lot more smaller things. There's no sort of big reveal. There's a little bit of trepidation and uncertainty because the industry is in a period of flux because of AI. And also I think that goes deeper than just what AI tools we're going to use on the face of it. It goes into how the ads platforms are now working in a different way than they worked a year ago. And they haven't particularly been as effective for us authors who are generally not running conversion campaigns. We're just sending out, trying to find our audience through targeting. And so there was some discussion about that. There is sort of Chatham House rules here. So you don't a lot of the stuff that you do talk about, people share their figures or share their particular tactics. We don't share that. But I've made a list of the more broader areas.
Things you can talk about.
Yeah. I think good takeaways for us as well, stuff that's going to work at our level. So people might be wondering why I'm here, because I only have 2 books and a novella, and I'm not, spoiler alert, I'm not making
how did you blag your way in?
£100,000. Well, because I started a publishing company and I was making 6 figures on that publishing company before I sold it. And now it's making obviously even more money, but I'm a small part of it now. So that's the reason I wanted to be here. I wanted to go to Mallorca because I was operating at that level. I was operating at the same level other people were running their ads, and I needed to get into that.
It's just that you were running them for other people's books. And I think there were a couple of people when I went to Mallorca who they weren't actually there for their own books. They were publishing like somebody else's, or they worked in a team or things like that. So
correct. And that's actually a trend that's emerged over recent years. I think authors that do become successful, so let's say you grow your author business, you've got 40 books and you're making $300,000 a year, you've got a platform, everything's in place. You've got a publishing company effectively, but you've only got one author, you. So a natural step is to take on 2 or 3 other authors, and not to do what I did, which is to build a publishing company, but choose people in your genre who perhaps aren't as effective as they would like to be at marketing, or they don't want to do the marketing. And so you end up, and there was quite a few, there are those people in the room who run probably 6 authors, something like that, including themselves.
Yeah, because I think it increases your output, doesn't it? I mean, it's a little bit like choosing to co-write, except obviously you're not doing the writing of the books. You're able to, so there's a plane going over. Hopefully.
Yeah, brilliant. Some military jets.
Oh,
how exciting.
And then I tapped my head. These are new headphones. Then I tapped my headphones. Then it started playing music to me. That was very confusing. But yeah, I think it's a way to increase your output if you know what you're doing, if it's within your genre, and if it's somebody who doesn't want to do that side of things for themselves. And quite often you can then offer them a much fairer cut than they would get from other publishers. I know that Adam Bezwick is doing that kind of model. Is that the plane that was flying over my house?
No, I think so.
That would be the one, yeah. For anybody who's not watching on YouTube, James just held up a little map of the exact plane that just flew over my house.
Even though I'm 4,500 miles away. It was a KC-135 Strato tanker, if anyone's interested.
Isn't technology wonderful?
But isn't it? Yeah. So, and yeah, only Dan Wood was here as a kind of service provider, because Dan's such an integral part of this community, and he's brilliant to have around. Of course, his partner, actually, Cheryl, is a very successful mystery author, so she's here in her own right for that. It's been good.
Is it a larger group than we had in Mallorca?
It's about 80 in total, which feels larger than Mallorca. That's including partners. There's about 50 authors.
Okay, I think we had about 50 in total.
Yeah.
Including partners in Mallorca, I think.
Yeah. So there's going to be probably one annually from now on. So you might not have
we don't have to wait another 2 years. That's good.
But that's the good news. The bad news is the one next year is about as far away from Britain as you could possibly get.
Oh, is it in New Zealand?
Yeah.
Yes.
Likely to be.
That's exciting.
So, okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff I think might be useful for us.
Yeah, because I think it's interesting. The themes and things that are coming up are going to be things that, even if you can't share details of what other people shared, the themes that have come up are going to be things that are coming up for all of us, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the discussions was about selling backlists. So that might not pertain to everyone. If you've got 2 or 3 books like me, you haven't got a backlist. But if you actually, in your case, Cara, you do have a backlist. You've got a whole set of books that sit there, and series kind of fade away. I described in one of the discussions, they asked me, well, what's it like if you don't advertise anymore? We talked about, because our first author, Robert, sadly died at Fuse Books, and I watched his sales bleed away to almost nothing. So paid ads, that marketing level, that's the petrol in an engine, and you take that out and the engine's not going to run anymore. And so that's what happens with backlist books. So we talked a lot about making money with that. And there was an author here who has a lot of books, 200 plus, and she said that 80% of her income is from her backlist. So she spent a lot of time, and she rebundles them, sends out the free books together as a package ahead of summer reads and stuff like that. And she recovers them from time to time, which is much easier now with AI. She does, promotion. She talked a bit about 99 versus free, which is an ongoing debate we've had for years. And she said that she experimented going from free to 99 she has some perma-free books. So this is when you have like book 1 in the series, or a novella, or something that sits at the front of the series. You either give away or sell for 99p. And the idea is you get as many people reading that as possible, and they go on and read your series. So even if you've given it away for free, you make money because a percentage of those people will like the book enough to read the rest of the series. 99 obviously makes you some money as you're going along. And does it have the same effect? Well, she found out in her case, it did not. Going to 99p killed the sales. It killed the read-through, and the series tanked. So she went back to free. So I thought that was an interesting real-world example of something we often speculate about.
And was she in KU? Or was she wide? Because I've never done that with mine because I'm in KU. So I just don't really see the point. But then I suppose maybe I'm cutting out people who would read it anyway.
Yeah, there's a question in my mind about KUs. If you have a novella I think traditionally people would keep the novella wide and set that to either 9p or free. And if you want to set it free on Amazon, by the way, you've got to contact Amazon. You've got to set it free elsewhere.
Yeah.
The only way to get it free, not just for the 5 days.
You have to price match it, don't you? You have to tell them, oh, by the way, it's free somewhere else, and then they'll price match it. Otherwise, they won't let you just set it to 0.
Yeah. Or are you better off putting it into KU? I mean, I think, is there a feeling that KU authors, KU readers, wouldn't see a book even if it's perma-free because they're only looking for KU books? I don't think that's really how Amazon works. I don't think you search books on KU. You search books and then you see they're in KU.
Yes, you do.
I don't think you'd lose visibility like that. So I think keeping the novella and book one wide, setting it free, and trying to get it on every other platform so people then go off to Amazon to find it. You can't put Amazon links in the back of a book you put up on Apple, but people will find the book if they liked it. So I think that's probably the best tactic for that.
That's interesting.
There was a good session on Amazon ads specifically for Backlist. Amazon ads has always been a sort of slightly grey area for me, just because I know it's a more complicated platform than it looks. Mm-hmm. Whilst I definitely feel like a master Facebook ads, Amazon ads has always been, I'm not quite sure I know what I'm doing with Amazon ads.
I agree.
I would thoroughly recommend Ricardo Fayette's book on it and his course, which we sell over at Learn Self-Publishing. It's fantastic. And that was a big breakthrough for me, editing his course and reading his book. As part of that, suddenly I got lots of aspects of it. But we had a presentation on a fairly simple approach that had minimal maintenance. So even if you've got 30 books and 4 series or 3 series, three series of 10 books, you set campaigns for each series. You put every book into the series, print on demand, ebook. Doesn't matter if it's book 8. Does it matter that somebody bought book 8 in your series and not book 1? No, it does not. However they want to get into the series. So you put every book, including the print copies, into a campaign. You have 3 variations of the ad set. So you have ASINs, keywords, and auto. You run them on kind of minimal budget, $5, $10, and you do the maintenance once a month on that. So that's low maintenance. Once a month you go in and you just do the classic things you do with Amazon ads is you kill the keywords that aren't selling, you up the bids on the keywords that are selling, and you reduce the bids on the keywords and ASINs, etc., that are not selling. So you optimize it that way. And that's a simple thing. There's a bit of work at the beginning because you've got to harvest the ASINs. I mean, I hope everyone, not everyone necessarily will know what I'm talking about. I'm aware of that. If you're right at the beginning of your campaign, who on earth it's complicated. But if you know your Amazon ads platforms, you'll understand. ASINs is the identification number for every book. It's
like an ISBN, but for Amazon. It's the one that they give you to identify your book. And you can use things like Publisher Rocket to gather comparable books and their ASINs. You don't have to go through Amazon and do all this yourself, like by hand. You can get all of this from Publisher Rocket pretty easily.
Yeah, you can. And there's a website called booksintheseries.com, and so you can list, although AI will probably do that now for you. And there's a few keyword generating websites and stuff. So you can, there's a bit of time. I would say probably you're going to spend half a day per series researching keywords and ASINs, compiling all them to start off with. But that's quite an attractive, for people who do have a backlist, I think that's quite an attractive way of doing it to stop them dying, get them working for you, basically.
Yeah, and that's something I really want to get working, because it's with my recent kind of TikTok spike. It's brilliant when it spikes and when it works, and that tail seems to be lasting really well. And my income is 4 times what it was this time last month because of that TikTok video. But I need to get my ads working so that when that does dip, I've got something ticking along the background that's going to keep the visibility up. So actually, luckily, I had just started some Amazon auto ads right before that TikTok blew. And I were on a very low budget, but people often say to start an Amazon auto ad before you do, if you're going to do a promo, like a Hello Books promo or Bargain Booksy or something like that, because getting all that traffic to the page very quickly is going to give Amazon a lot of information. So I'm hoping that if I now sit and actually spend some time paying attention to getting those ads working, and just that's all I want is some low budget ads that I can check on once a month, starting at a low cost to start building them up. So maybe I should make that my homework for next week.
Yeah, definitely something to do. Okay, so some other things that we talked about. I mean, one of the exciting areas is scare mail. So scare mail is a concept that David Viergutz has developed. And it's absolutely fascinating. When every time David spoke about it, the whole room was enwrapped by what he had to say. So he was a horror writer, but I don't know exactly when the idea came to him, but he thought, well, I write horror. I like scaring people. I also hate getting my mail every day because I get my mail, my physical mail. And what's your mail full of? What do we get through the letterbox these days?
Yeah. Bills and junk.
And bills and junk, exactly. And he said, but when he was a kid, his grandma used to write a letter to him. And he loved it. He loved getting those letters. And he'd get, on his 8th birthday, there'd be $8 in there. And his 9th birthday, there'd be $9 in there, and so on. And I can remember you'd send away for things, from magazines that you were reading. Looking, I think, was a magazine I read as a boy. And you'd send off, and it'd be exciting when it arrived. And so mail used to have a kind of slightly romantic edge to it. It doesn't anymore. And he thought, well, there's a generation for whom he could reinvent that. So he has this scare mail, which you can just Google scare mail and David Viergut, Viergutz, it'll come up. And you can sign up to be scared through the mail. So £99, I think, is scare mail one. Last 12 months. So once a month, you will get stuff through the post. It tells a story. I haven't read them yet. I've signed up last night, actually, whilst we were having dinner. So I will hopefully have something coming through my letterbox when I get home. Which I'll have a look at. But this is not a secret because David has shared this. I'm fairly certain he's shared this publicly, and he's going to be at Self-Publishing Show. He's going to be doing a workshop on how this works. Because there's a spin-off for us doing direct sales here, just that audience engagement. But he is making hundreds of thousands of pounds a month. I mean, I think a poor month for him is like $80,000 a month. It's insane how successful this is and how this has taken off. And so there's two takeaways from that. One is selling direct is a viable option and is something that's definitely growing at the moment. I will always be on Amazon. I will always be a big fan of Amazon. I will sometimes be wide, with books and campaigns we talked about in the novella. But I think alongside that platform that Amazon allows you to build, you can then nurture your own audience. And it's so important to have your own audience because things can change very quickly in technology terms and privacy laws and all the rest of it. So having your own audience is very important. So that's a big takeaway for us and how he engages the audience and a bit of the logistics. Can you imagine he's got 2 warehouses now where he employs everyone directly. He doesn't outsource any of this stuff. So he showed me some photographs of the piles of stuff waiting to go out. David's going to be at a Self-Publishing Show and he's doing a workshop session on that. So that's going to be really good.
But yeah, I think with the direct sales as well, it doesn't just have to be, people think about their ebooks and being direct and things, but I know people who have still got their books in KU, but they're doing so well with direct sales with their paperbacks because people on TikTok, not just TikTok Shop, actually having their own Shopify store, which they're channeling people to from TikTok and Instagram and things like that. I think Sasha Black, her direct sales now rival or overtake anything done on Amazon. So you can do both. It's not a case of having to choose between direct or Amazon.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Okay, some other bits. So Shell Honecker, someone else I'm going to name because she's also coming to SBS and is going to be talking to us about using AI in your production and your marketing.
I've seen her post about this a lot lately and I'm really intrigued.
I mean, she's so deep into this stuff. So she's doing really, really clever stuff. And one of the things Shell does in other life is produce Indie Author magazine. And she showed us the workflow for that, which is that magazine is virtually automated, from beginning to end. It just uses make.com, which is a bit like a Zapier. It talks between all these applications. So if you put something in a Google Sheet, it recognizes something's appeared there and it immediately takes it off, proofs it through AI, gives her notes on it, does a synopsis, moves it to the right size, puts it in the magazine layout, then goes off to the magazine layout and stuff. So, and we can do a lot of this. It's going to help us in our book production, automating things, advertising and so on, keeping advertising fresh. So she was brilliant. And again, we'll be at Self Publishing Show speaking on the main day, on the main conference, and doing a workshop session to take it in a bit more advanced.
Very interested in that. I was reading an article she wrote the other day that was super interesting about how this stuff kind of got to the point where it is and what you can actually achieve now. And that was really exciting because I think we keep saying, like, this is the things that we should be using AI for. Because if we can get it to do all that, then we can concentrate on writing the books. And that's what we want to be doing. So I'm excited to hear her talk. That'll be really good.
Definitely. One of the things she showed us was Google AI Studio, which I hadn't used before, but just a very simple drag, drop and click is I put in a book cover without the text on it, or a book cover with the text on it, and say, animate this. And then 60 seconds later, you've got an animated version of your book cover, which you can use in a Facebook ad. Yeah.
That's so exciting.
I'll include the link to that in the show notes if people want to try it out. Yeah,
can you? That's very exciting.
Now, it didn't work 100% of the time, so I think it's quite nitty about like violent images and so on. So cover images, you may get rejects from time to time, and you only get maybe 3 or 4 a day, I think, and then it says you've probably got to pay for it. But that was just one small takeaway. I mean, there was a load of stuff from her, and I'm not sure how much she's going to share in SBS. Obviously, I'm not going to talk too much about some of the background stuff there, but that was amazing. So a couple of other smaller takeaways. Discounting pre-orders, a launch. I had a whole session on launching. What I'd been doing with launches, both for me and authors when in Fuse books, was to discount the pre-order, allow the discount to run for maybe 7 to 10 days when it was live. And the reason for that is you really want eyes on the book and you want to kickstart the algorithm and you want Amazon to start doing work for you. So that was my theory about that. But the sort of consensus in talking to people here was don't discount it, because basically the people who buy your pre-order are going to buy your book anyway.
That's always been my logic. Yeah.
They want it. So all you're doing is you're taking money off the table for you. And actually what you could do is keep it at full price. And if you think you've made a bit of extra money there, use that money in Facebook ads and use Facebook ads to drive the algorithm in those first few days of the order. So I thought that was just a small little nugget, and you think, yeah, that makes complete sense. Why have I been doing it the other way for the last 2 years?
Yeah.
So that was a takeaway
totally
for me. Use of influencers. The last note I've got here is the use of influencers. So I have not used them at all. Well, we tried a little bit, and SPF wasn't particularly successful for the courses. But when you're at a bigger level, there's influencers on Facebook, YouTube, on Instagram, and on TikTok. You kind of have to track them down yourself manually. I mean, the TikTok, I think, does have a list of influencers, but you kind of have to track them down on YouTube and Instagram. You can basically search on your, if I'm a thriller author, I'm looking for thriller recommends, for instance, a great thing to search on. Then there's people who pop up and you can see, oh, this guy's got 25,000 followers and he posts every day. This is an influencer. This is somebody who you can then contact and place your book with them for a cost. And then they'll push the book out. So it's not something I've got experience of using, but it's something I'm keen to explore.
Yeah, it's something that I'm doing something that's not very like me. I'm planning my January 2026 launch because I want it to be big. I want it to be a really, really big launch. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to do is every time I'm on TikTok, I've got a folder where I'm saving BookTokers who are relevant, who are going to be interested in that they're reviewing my kind of book, that sort of thing. Same on Instagram. And it's legwork. There are companies like NerdFam is a US-based company which will do this for you. They'll curate massive lists of BookTokers and influencers and sell you those lists. But it is very pricey. And this is one of those things that you can do yourself. And I feel like it's a bit more personal and you've got more chance of getting them to work with you if you genuinely have looked at their content and are coming at them to say, I've seen you do this. And people do all sorts of interesting things. I know Adam Bezwick worked with a woman who does a lot of cosplay stuff. So she does these videos where she's like falling back into a book, and then she wakes up and she's in the costume of the characters in the book. So he got her to do that for his book. So it's not just people who are reviewing books. There are other kind of creative ways that you can think about working with them. And I think if ads are on the decline in terms of, we've all agreed that we're not getting the same efficiency from our Facebook ads now as we were a year ago or 18 months ago. We've got to start thinking outside the box and thinking about what trad are doing, because that's what they're doing. They kind of learnt from us, but then they had the budget to start, paying the really big influencers.
And that was a negative side of it. The big influencers have been priced out by trad for us. So people were talking about looking for those 5 to 10,000, 10 to 15,000 influencers who are hungrier as well.
Yeah, that's my tactic. And I mean, I've been doing this for 2 weeks and I've got 250 BookTokers on my list just from every time I'm on TikTok saving their details. All of them have under 10,000 followers. A lot of them have under 1,000, and they're new and they're starting BookTok accounts now and they want to do this. But if you sent out 200 review copies to the smaller accounts and you've got 200 organic videos going out at about the same time, that's still going to have a lot of impact. And it only takes one of them to take off and you're going to end up getting the same effect that you might have had to pay. I mean, I got a quote from one of the really big ones and it was, I think, $2,500 one video. If you wanted a repost, you had to pay another $1,000. And that's a lot of money when you can't guarantee that video is actually going to serve. So that's really interesting. I'm glad that it's something that was talked about. And I think it's going to start becoming... It's something we as indies need to be creative about and figure out how we can do it without that huge budget.
Yeah. And there was one or two more advanced strategies. I don't know how much I can say about these, but I hate to sound all sneaky about this, but there is kind of, this conference only works if people are in a room and they know they can talk freely. But one or two people have built up their own kind of army of people. Yes.
I mean, that's kind of similar to having your street team and your ARC team. I did that with my last release, and I had a private Discord group and there were challenges that they had to do with posting and that kind of stuff. And it kind of happens organically, actually, because if you, in those communities, I know which people on TikTok are automatically going to comment on my videos. I see them tagging me. I see them recommending my books because they're genuine fans. And a lot of them are BookTokers. So if you say, I really want to work with you, make them feel part of something. I didn't give away anything particularly expensive. I gave them all a signed copy for being part of this street team that was posting stuff on Instagram and TikTok every day. And I think I had a hoodie to give away and a couple of other things. But it doesn't have to be massively expensive, but it is one of those things that's time consuming and takes a bit of, you've got to be part of it as the author. This is one of those things you can't really outsource because it only works if you're doing the communicating and making the fans who are going to help you.
Yeah, definitely. Good. Well, an update on my translations project, which I think I talked about last week. I know we recorded 2 episodes. I'm not sure which episode I talked this about because one of the episodes is going to be held over now.
I think you mentioned it in the first one and then again briefly in the second one.
So what I decided to do is to use Scribe Shadow, which I've started to hear really good things about. So Scribe Shadow is an AI automation tool, and it seems to have come of age, and people have used it. So I've now spoken to maybe 4 authors who've used it and have had no complaints about the translation, and they've been making money on their translations in France and in Spain and so on. So it seems like an obvious thing to do to multiply your markets. So I'm going to, as an experiment, put my books into French, which I've done, launch them in France, which I've done. No human intervention. Yeah, all done. No human intervention. An interesting idea came up. So I did the French titles. I got the titles converted, looked at the options of different. I spoke to Ricardo, who speaks French, and asked him for help and settled on the titles. But then someone said to me, don't translate the titles.
Someone said that in our
exactly.
first Q&A, didn't they?
In our Patreon, we had a Patreon Q&A and we talked about this.
Which was great, by the way. It was really, really good.
It was brilliant, yeah. And someone
really
said,
enjoyed it.
Don't translate the titles because... And maybe the theory was that, I was thinking about this, that if you're in France, you're French, and you want to read American and British thrillers, you kind of don't want to read French thrillers for whatever reason. You know, you just like reading Jack Reacher, you prefer that culture of stuff. And maybe there's a different culture and way. And so for whatever reason, that's in your mind. If you translate your book title into French, it's going to look like a French thriller. It's going to look like a French book. Well, you actually want it to look like a British and American thriller that's been translated.
Yes.
So I've now, for starting off, I've called it, The Final Flight, and then the subtitle is Edition Français, French edition. And I put that as a stamp on the front cover. It's the only thing I've done for the cover. So I'm going to give that a go. Just starting Facebook, Amazon ads has taken ages for the Amazon ads campaigns to be approved. So they're not running yet. So we'll see how that goes.
In theory, if you're setting up the expectation as well that this is a book that's been translated, because they can see the title is in English, and it says French edition underneath, maybe they're going to be a little bit more forgiving of any mistakes in the translation if they kind of know that going in. But it's a bit like when you look at things on Netflix, isn't it? I hate it when they have made the title English and then you start watching it and you realise that it's got subtitles or it's been dubbed, because it's not. I actually really like watching dubbed things. I like watching things with subtitles, but it puts your brain in a different place. You're expecting something else, and then it's weird because you're expecting it to be set in America or the UK, and then it's not, and it kind of jars you straight away. You go, oh, that's not what I was expecting.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that, but that's the other side of that, is that somebody in France gets tricked into buying your book thinking they're buying a French thriller author, and they realise, it's some British guy talking about the Royal Air Force. I don't want this, and you get a bad review. So making it clear, which is always the philosophy I've always talked about. The Swiss cheese stuff is your number one thing in marketing is making sure people know what it is.
Yeah,
and it's surprising how often people don't get that bit right.
Yeah, and we've talked before about that, like friction, haven't we? That people get, like, you don't want any friction. You don't want them to, even if they would be quite happy to read that, having known that it's been translated, you just don't want that little thing in their head that goes, oh, there's something that I wasn't expecting there.
Be clear. So we'll see how that goes. I'm quite excited about it. And there's a bit of a question about Spanish, because Spanish in Spain is different from Spanish in the rest of the world. And quite different, actually. So some decisions to make there. But I'm Dutch. I could put my books into Dutch for sure, because it sounds like how the Dutch speak.
God.
There's one accent for you, because I know they're big plane spotters. In Holland, the kind of attitude towards military aviation is very similar in Holland to it is to Britain. As you're very likely to see people standing at the edge of airports with binoculars. So I love it. I love them for that. Okay, look, we've got to 30 minutes. I'm worried about how long this is going to take to upload on the hotel Wi-Fi. So
I'm worried for you.
Call it halt, now. But it's been nice to catch up from.
It has.
I've had a terrible night's sleep and several nights bad sleep.
You do seem tired.
Yeah, it's the downside of this.
You don't seem your normal springy self.
I'm older, and it's not good when you lose sleep over several days. You become a little bit. I become a little bit discombobulated and a bit more emotional and stuff, and I'd rather not be like that. So I'm going to try and.
I'm very, very tired because it's the end of the Easter holidays. Finally.
Yes, of course.
It's been a really, really, really long time, and they're finally back at school today. Yeah, and all the parents go, "Woohoo! They're back at school!" And then you go, "Oh my God, I'm so tired. I need to lie down before I can actually do anything else." All right. Well, James Blatch, have a safe flight home, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, and I've got Seville immediately after I get home, like 2 days home. Then I'm off to Seville, where I'm presenting on the Swiss cheese model. So all right, thank you very much indeed, Cara.
All right, bye.
Support the podcast and get exclusive access by joining our Patreon. From just $1 an episode, you'll be invited to our Discord server, where the weekly discussion continues every day. And our 2 top tiers include a monthly live Q&A with James and Cara. Head to indiewritersclub.com/support. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. We'll see you next Friday.